I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. We are uploading a video almost every day. We have more than 20,000 videos. Since last 15 years, the YouTube channel is active and supporting students globally. In this video, we'll discuss quadratic functions. We have taken up an equation which is in factored form. Y equals to minus half x minus 5 times x plus 1. We are going to look into the key characteristics and then graph this particular function. We'll go through all these steps, and that is to say, we'll identify key characteristics, make a rough sketch, describe steps to graph, table of values, graph and label parabola. Now, in this case, we are not going to make table of values. We'll only consider 5 key parameters. So we are doing some variation. Normally, you just make a table of values, plot them. But that is not necessary. We need 5 key points for accurate graph. And normally, you must have seen these key parameters: domain, range, direction of opening, axial symmetry, vertex, maximum or minimum, decreasing interval, increasing interval, number of real roots, y-intercepts, x-intercepts, and steps. We use this function steps to graph, but here we are using key parameters. But instead, we'll say where is the function positive and where is the function negative. So that is another parameter which we are going to look into. I hope you find this interesting and useful. So stick with us for about half an hour to understand all these concepts. In case you want to learn from me, you can always send an email on the address given or contact us on the website. My students normally perform very well. They are right on the top of their class, getting awards.
After attending university. The winner of this year's Certificate of Achievement Schulich Leader Award is Akshi Kandivani.
Great. Our student Akshit gets highest marks and the most prestigious Schulich Leader Award. You can be there. Join our classes and excel. So now, let's begin with the most important parameter, which gives the name of this particular function. So we are given y equals to minus half x minus 5x plus 1. If you see from left to right, there are a few things which you observe. Minus. What does this minus indicate? Well, it indicates the direction of opening, and minus means that the graph will open down. You get the idea. That is what it indicates. Wide or narrow. That is decided by this factor which multiplies the factored form. It is half. Half really means that it is going to be wide. So I'm going to make it wide like this, right? So that is how it will be when we are comparing with the graph of y equals to x squared, right? So I'm doing it downwards since already we know that it is downwards, correct? So we know this is going to be wide, and we have also figured out the direction is down. And third thing which this gives you is the x-intercepts. Whatever makes these two factors 0. That means you have to equate x minus 5 to 0, and that gives you x equals to 5. And then you have to equate x plus 1 equals to 0, and that gives you x equals to minus 1. So there are two x-intercepts, one at 5 and the other one at minus 1. You get the idea. So in case this is the x-axis, then your x-intercepts will be at which points? Well, clearly, they will be at minus 1 and 5. You get the idea. And somewhere here, this will be the y-axis, right? Do you see how we have some view about the graph of the function right from the equation itself. Perfect. Now what do we need to figure out? We need to find the axis, the vertex, and then we can define all of the parameters. So let's look into the axis. So till now, what have we done? Well, we figured out one thing, which is where the x-intercepts are. So we have something like this, right? We have something like this. Perfect. And we know that the two x-intercepts are at -1 and at 5, right? So x-intercepts are at -1. These are the x values, and at 5. Now, how do we find axis of symmetry? Well, axis of symmetry, as the name indicates, is a line which makes or divides the graph into two exactly same parts, right? Which is like a reflection. So somewhere right there in the center will be our axis of symmetry, right? So let me draw a straighter line than what I've done. That is the line which is the axis of symmetry. We need to find the equation of this particular line. You get the idea. So it is midway, right? So axis of symmetry is midway. Midway means find the average value. Average means there are two values. So the x value will be add them up and divide by 2, right? So when you add them up, you get 4 and divide by 2, you get 2. So that means we got this axis of symmetry, which is a vertical line with the equation x equals to 2. So this point here will be 2. You get the idea. So we got the axis of symmetry. See, as we are moving along, we are also developing our graph. Isn't that interesting? I hope you understand it. Perfect. Now, really, if you want to master things like this, you can always contact me on the email address given. So now what you can find? Well, interesting part, axis we found. So this particular point, which is the vertex, we need to find that. Vertex is always on the axis of symmetry. So how will you find the vertex? So some of you have got this idea. Perfect. So let's again continue with what we have just developed, right? So we just developed a part of the graph, which is kind of like this, going downwards with two x-intercepts, right? So let me make it slightly narrower to fit in my page. Okay. Perfect. And now this point, -1, that point 5, and we found that the axis is midway between them. Adding 5 and -1 gave us 4 divided by 2. So x equals to 2 is the axis of symmetry. So every point here has x value of 2. So we know the x-intercepts are -1 and 5, and axis of symmetry is x equals to 2. To find the vertex, which is on the axis of symmetry, I'll substitute the value of x as x equals to 2. So I have -12, and substituting x equals to 2, I get 2 minus 5 times 2 plus 1. Perfect. And that gives me -12, 2 minus 5 is -3, and 2 plus 1 is +3, right? So we have -3 times +3, and 9/2, positive 9/2, or you can say 4.5 is my y value. So we have the vertex here, which happens to be a 2x value, and the y value being 4.5. Makes sense? So I'm writing vertex v as coordinate points 2 and 4.5. So that is my vertex v. So we got the vertex here to 4.5. Is that clear to you? So go through it once again. Try to understand that axis of symmetry is midway between the x-intercepts, and vertex lies on the axis of symmetry. Therefore, we substituted the value of x equals to 2 in this case and evaluated the value of y, which came out to be 4.5. Therefore, the vertex is 2, x value, y coordinate value 4.5. Clear? Perfect. Now that gives you complete information about our graph, and we can answer some more questions. So here are a few questions for you to answer. So you need to now tell me what is the domain of this function, what is the range, direction of opening, axis of symmetry, vertex, is it a maximum or a minimum value? So I think that is not difficult now. So I'd like you to just pause the video and answer these questions. Here I'm preparing for your answers. That is a rough sketch. The rough sketch is the best way to really visualize and then answer. Do you see that? So makes sense, right? So there you are. And I'm labeling this to help you answer these questions, right? Axis symmetry, x equals to 2, and the vertex 2, 4.5. Okay, so let's fill up all these values which we know. Domain is x belongs to real numbers. We sometimes write from minus infinity to plus infinity. It means all real numbers. Range. The range includes 4.5, but it is below that. So we can include 4.5. The square bracket means including 4.5, but goes to negative infinity. You get the idea. So you should normally write it in the reverse way, because we always write smaller number first, which is negative infinity here, and plus 4.5 included. You get the idea. Sometimes you would like to write the range as what? So let me write range in set form. In set notation, range will be given to you as all values of y belonging to real numbers, where y is less than equal to 4.5. Is that clear to you? Now, direction of opening is down. We wrote already. Axis of symmetry is x equals to 2. Vertex we know is 2, 4.5. And that happens to be a maximum value. Do you see that? So we have a maximum value, which is 4.5. Is that clear to you? So we have almost all the characteristics. What you really don't know and which you want to find is the y-intercept. Makes sense, right? Y-intercept. So what is y-intercept and how do we find that? Well, to find the y-intercept, what should we do? Well, y-intercept is the point where the graph crosses y-axis. So let me again sketch this graph as which we know about it. Perfect. So we are now interested in finding the y-intercept, which is this particular point. We know so many other points, right? So y-intercept is the point where x value is 0, right? So substitute x as 0. So you get y equals to minus half, and 0 for x, substitute x equals to 0, correct? So we get 0 minus 5 times 0 plus 1. And that gives you what? Half of minus 5 times plus 1. This is minus half of, right? And that gives you 2.5 positive. So this point is 2.5. You see that. So we found the y-intercept as 2.5. Now, you see we have 5 key parameters here. X-intercepts, 2 of them, y-intercept, this and the axis. And that actually clearly defines the graph of this particular function. Perfect. So we have sketched the graph perfectly. Now, from the graph, let us decide about increasing and decreasing intervals. Okay. So again and again, we are sketching this graph so that you get into this practice of understanding and graphing. You see, the graph curves should be very smooth as I'm trying to draw here, right? I know you can do even better than this. Correct. And this is the axis. So we know this particular point, vertex, happens to be at 2, 4.5. And this we got a value. And this was how much? Vertex was, y-intercept was 2.5. Okay. So this was 2.5. And that was 0 for us. And this is minus 1. And this one is 5. Perfect. Now, can you tell me decreasing and increasing interval. So decreasing means the graph portion which is coming down, that is decreasing. And clearly, after 2, it comes down, right? So the decreasing interval is from 2 to infinity, right? As far as the increasing is concerned, it increases from minus infinity to 2. And that is how you can write increasing and decreasing interval. Is that clear to you, right? So we see that the graph increases in this portion but decreases in that portion. That is how we get this increasing and decreasing interval. Clear? Now we have added one more parameter, and this was when is the graph positive and when is the graph negative. So we are looking for intervals for positive and negative. When we say positive and negative, we are looking into positive values, right? And negative values. So I'll sketch the graph once again for you, and I'd like you to answer this particular question. By now, you know what this graph is, right? Very clear. You like this idea? Write your comments and suggestions. Do you see this labeled? Perfect. Now we know so many things about this graph. Perfect. Now can you tell me positive and negative? Positive really means above x-axis. So the portion when it is above x-axis is this one. Do you see that? And therefore, we could write this positive as from minus 1 to 5, right? So it is from minus 1 to 5 that the graph is positive. And it is negative in the other portions, right? This is negative, correct? So there, negative is from minus infinity to minus 1, and then we write union or, right, either one, and then from 5 to infinity. So that is how we could write down positive and negative interval. Does it make sense to you? Perfect. So I think now you got everything and you can sketch a perfect graph. Here is your perfect graph. So that's your graph paper. Fill in the information which we just got from this equation in this kind of a table, right? And then sketch it. So we have this graph which opens down, right? Which opens down, perfect, and half means it is wide. Let me write here itself. I didn't keep space for it. The x-intercepts are at minus 1 and at 5. Axial symmetry is x equals to 2. The vertex is at 2, 4.5. And the y-intercept was 2.5. Perfect. So the key points are, let's give these key points here, 1 minus and 5 plus. And then x's. So let me just draw the x's at 2. Right, so this becomes the axis. So we have this axis, x equals to 2. And then on the axis, we do have the vertex at 4.5. So 4.5, this is 4. And then slightly below 5. Perfect. So that there it goes. So we can just connect them. And where is the y-intercept? Do you see? Y-intercept is a checkpoint. Y-intercept is at 2.5. Makes sense? So there at 2.5, we have the y-intercept. Is that clear to you? So label also x and y axis to get full marks. Do not leave anything. Perfect. Does make sense to you? That is how you have to graph. Label the vertex also. Do not miss on any points, as this can result into 0.5 deduction. So now you see the importance. You can always send an email to this and perform much, much better. Gain confidence and join Anil Kumar classes. Right. So that is how you have to sketch it. You have a graph here shown. It is a good point to also draw arrows at the end. You get the idea? So I like you to label this as we had been doing. So let's again practice. How do we label? This is my axis. Normally, I would have drawn it in dotted line. But it is important to label x equals to 2, this point minus 1, this point written as 5, but we'll rewrite. And here, vertex 2, 4.5. Makes sense, right? And this point 2.5. Opens down, as you can see, and there we go. With these 5 key parameters, we accurately define a graph when it is given in intercept form. So you do not have to make a table of values. These are good enough for a perfect graph. I hope it all makes sense. Feel free to write a comment, share all your suggestions. I'm very thankful to you for sticking on so long. Thank you and all the best.